Mixing, first and foremost, is about balance, making sure that everything that you want to be heard in the mix is being heard at the time that it's supposed to be heard. Then there's panning, but when you get to processing, things, effects, compression, EQ, it's really a game of micro adjustments, one after the other, to just kind of polish the surface of the tracks that you have. Now that's assuming that the tracks are pretty well recorded. And the first step should probably always be correcting any deficiencies in the tracks. But in most cases, not every track needs a ton of processing. And if you spend an hour tweaking an EQ, you get this radical setting, you think it sounds amazing, chances are tomorrow you're gonna wake up and you're gonna listen to it and you're not gonna like it because you've done too much. Every once in a while, it doesn't hurt to just listen back and think, does this sound natural? Does this sound like what it's supposed to be reproducing? Does the vocal even sound like a human voice? It's not always supposed to, but I'm talking about the times when it is. You don't want to mangle something that already sounded pretty good to begin with. The more I mix, the better I get at it, the less I feel like I'm doing with each individual plugin, and the more time I spend A/Bing processing to see if it's actually adding what I'm hoping it's going to add. And I'm listening really closely because the changes that I'm making are super subtle. When you first start out mixing, you might think that those subtle changes aren't going to amount to anything, but they really do add up over the course of a mix. You make tiny tweaks to each track, and then at the end, it all comes together, and it can really blow you away how much that makes a difference. Sometimes it's like these different stages of different grit sandpaper. You start with that coarse grit, and then it just gets finer and finer. And with each layer of sanding, it doesn't look like you're doing much, but at the end it's super smooth. Sand out those final imperfections, and there's your smooth, shiny, beautiful mix, ready to send off to the client. If you go too hard with that coarse grit sandpaper in the beginning, you can get some wonky looking wood. So until next Wednesday, hit me up if you want a mix that's not wonky, and I will sand it for you. Smooth.